Good morning, everyone. My name is Matthew Davis, and I'm here to present an insight on regulated local authority searches. So thank you for taking the time to join us. So let's begin. So the agenda that we're going to look to cover in this webinar, the Conveyancers Obligation, the different types of local authority searches, contrast and compare the two types of searches, the official and the regulated, and then a summary. So let's begin with the Conveyancers Obligation, which includes obligations to the SRA, CLC, and the end clients, which obviously includes the buyer client and the lender client. So we're starting off with the SRA Handbook. The SRA obviously being the Solicitors Regulation Authority. Principle 4, you must act in the best interest of each client. And then Principle 5, you must provide a proper standard of service to your clients. What this is saying here is that you should be taking into, when dealing with a new client, you should be taking into account your client's needs for that property. So, for example, if your client is buying a property because they really like the view, that's their interest in purchasing the property. You need to make sure that when they purchase that property, there isn't going to be anything that will come up to potentially disrupt that view. So taking into account your client's needs, in that instance, you would order a planning report, for example, just to make sure that the property that they buy with the beautiful vista, overall loads of different fields, there's not going to be a giant skyscraper, which then pops up out of nowhere, all because it wasn't mentioned in a planning report. Loads of examples in that. Typically, if you are buying properties in London, you see it all the time where they're buying a flat with a good view of the Thames, and then all of a sudden a high-rise skyscraper is then built in front of them. So the Law Society Handbook states the same as well, and also states that the usual searches are your local authority search. So just a search on the local land charges register, and inquiries to local authority. So whilst it states that your usual search is typically a local search, majority of law firms should also be ordering a drainage and water search and also an environmental report. But however, typically the Law Society Conveyancers Handbook states only a local search is needed. Then the CLC Handbook. Again, it's asking you to act in the best interest of your client. So it just reiterates everything that we saw on the past two slides. Again, that planning report is a perfect example of taking into account your client's needs. Obviously, it's always going to be different because you might have one client that's looking for a family home, whilst your other one is looking for a buy-to-let property. Typically, you're not going to tend to order the same type of searches because they're wanting a different outcome for each property. So the CMO Handbook for the UK Finance. So on the 1st of July, the Council of Mortgage Lenders, which is the CMO, and Building Societies Association, also known as the BSA, integrated into a new trade association, which is UK Finance. But most conveyancers will refer to the CMO Handbook and the BSA Mortgage Instructions. Again, so within the CMO Handbook, it does state that you need to ensure that all usual and necessary searches and inquiries have been carried out, but nowhere in the CMO Handbook does it state what those searches are, unless you're referring to the Law Society, which again only states that a local search is carried out, which is why, again, I stress the importance to take into account the needs of your client. So now moving on to the types of local authority searches. And whenever I ask this question to clients, they typically come back with the same response. You've either got the official one provided by the council, or what we refer to as a council local authority search, or you have a personal search, or referred to as a private search. Now, the answer to that question is so much more in depth than that, because personal searches are then broken down into two. You have your regulated local authority search. So the regulated local authority search is the local authority search that I'm referring to in this webinar, which offers the protection to your end client. And we'll go through it in more detail throughout the webinar. And then you have the unregulated, or typically what personal searches were about 5 years ago. Unregulated, to be honest, if let's say, for example, I was to leave InfoTrack tomorrow, I could then set up Matthew Davis's personal searches in my garage, and I can go to all these councils and put together my own personal search and then sell it on to local authorities. Now, if I was to make a mistake within that local search, there'd be no repercussions for me because it is unregulated. Now, with the regulated local authority search, it is heavily monitored by COPSO, which is a Council of Property Search Organisations, and the PCCB, which is a Property Codes Compliance Board. All those make sure that the regulated local authority search is search code compliant, which means it is accepted by lenders. So speaking of the search code, it was a regulated local authority search means it is compiled by a search company that is registered as a subscriber to the search code. Now you'll see on the top right, you'll see the search code logo. That will appear at the bottom of any search taken out by InfoTrack because we are search code compliant. It was developed by the Council of Property Search Organisations, to which InfoTrack was one of the founding members. It is independently monitored and enforced by the Property Codes Compliance Board. Again, we're another member. And it is recognised by most lenders, which means we have that lender guarantee when ordering a regulated local authority search. It is regularly reviewed with consultation from government, consumer groups and stakeholders. And it requires subscribers to act with integrity and carry out work with due skill, care and due diligence. Maintain adequate and appropriate insurance at all times to protect consumers, so the end client. Act in an honest, fair and professional manner. Deals with complaints speedily and fairly. Ensure that products and services comply with industry regulation, rules and standards and relevant laws. Monitor their compliance with the code and always display the search code logo. As I mentioned, is the house with the magnifying glass located on the top right of this presentation. Now moving on to price and turnaround times. So the price and turnaround time, it varies for every local authority search. There are 375 different types of local authorities, to which each have their own fee, their own turnaround time, and with a regulated local authority search, its own way of compiling the result. So for example, there'll be some where we can book an appointment with the local authority, go collect all the information and then compile it. But there are others where a local authority may want to send us the local land charges and then we'll go collect the Con29 data. It's a different way for every local authority, which does mean that the turnaround time does vary. As shown below on the InfoTrack platform, we'll clearly show the price of the local authority search. So these prices that you can see on the screen, which is just for Woking Borough Council. The regulated search includes VAT, and so does a council one. But obviously with the local land charges, with the council search, you're only having the VAT on one fee, on one particular side of it, which does take it into account on the InfoTrack website. We'll also clearly show the turnaround time. So as you can see, this is an example taken from our website earlier on. So Woking for our regulated search has taken 7 working days, and our official search has taken 8 working days. Again, it does change, but because these are only ever done on the previous month's searches, unless stated otherwise by the local authority, what InfoTrack will do, it will show you its previous 8 searches that we sent out. So the last 8 that we sent out, so you can see, for example, with regulated, typically the last 4 that we've sent out, we're under 7 working days. Now with the 8 working days for the council search, again, they're typically underneath that, but I know you can see that 38 working day turnaround time, which will most likely fall down to a query. We try to be as accurate as possible as we can with turnaround times, which is why we always send out updates as well when we find out that turnaround time is changing. So here is a question. In what percentage of mortgage transactions do lenders accept regulated local authority searches? Emphasis on the word regulated there rather than personal. So these are the three options, and whenever I present this to clients and I give them those three options, they don't tend to believe us. They always think, oh no, that is a little bit too high, if not what they believe. However, the correct answer is 99%. And what InfoTrack does, it has a list of lenders that do and do not accept the regulated. So if you require more information at the end of this presentation, we're more than happy to send it on to you. We make it very clear what lenders do and do not accept the regulated, as suggested in the Cmo Handbook. So this is just a very quick breakdown of the lenders. So all the main lenders accept the regulated local authority search, and many, for example, the HSBC, have actually changed their Part 2 to state that personal searches should be carried out by firms registered with COPSO and comply with the search code. So that is regulated searches and not unregulated, or referred to as personal, which again is that logo that you can see at the bottom of all InfoTrack searches. A minority of lenders include a comment. A regulated search is accepted at the conveyancer's own risk in their Part 2, which does put off a few law firms. However, everything that you do when you're acting for a property case, everything conveyancers do is at your own risk. The lenders are simply confirming that they are not taking liability through their answer. It's why some conveyancers prefer to have a regulated local authority search, as they know there's someone else's insurance policy to protect them. It is actually estimated that regulated local authority searches now make up more than 40% of the market, and this figure is increasing all the time. Unregulated searches have a very small share, perhaps a percentage point or two, and the remaining balance is council searches. So there was once, there's an independent company that did a survey to solicitors and conveyancers. So they perceived that regulated local authority searches to be more accurate than searches compiled by local authorities, and also the turnaround time there as well. And these are the stats that were found. And I think the reason behind this is just simply because of the protection offered by the regulated local authority search. I've been presenting this now for quite a few years, and whenever I do, we always tend to get into a little bit of discussion, typically with law firms that don't order regulated local authority searches. They turn around to us and they state, why would they want a local authority search that's backed up by an indemnity? So our regulated search is backed up by a 10 million PI. Now, I always turn around and state, yes, it is an indemnity to protect if there are any mistakes within the regulated search. However, that is not the protection you will get from a council search. The council offers no protection from the moment you take out that local authority search with them, and often state in their T's and C's that the moment that search is purchased, it is then invalid and can't be relied upon. And there's a great case study called Goodham v Northamptonshire County Council, where Mr. Goodham was a property developer and bought a field in order to develop on it. So we had this council search, and it stated that the access way to that field was adopted, so highway maintainable at public expense. And even though he met with representatives of the council to go through in detail about any plan and applications, and access way was spoken about it, when he put in that planning application, it actually came back to state that that road was not highway maintainable at public expense, it was private. So he then took the local authority to court and lost. And there are a number of reasons why he lost. The main reason was just because he spoke to the representative from the council and did discuss access way. Yes, his council local authority search was incorrect. The council had no obligation to speak to all these different departments and make the inquiries on his behalf. They replied to it incorrectly, but unfortunately that was just a mistake that happened. He then took it up a level to the High Court and again lost. So not only did he lose 2 cases because he received the incorrect result on his local authority search, the value of that land then dropped as well, which obviously left Mr. Goodham in a very difficult position. So it's always an interesting case study. And if you want to find out more information, just get in touch and we'll happily send it over to you. So the SRA and the CLC handbooks require that the selection of search providers should be appropriate to the client's needs and balance. So on the screen are all the different needs that a law firm has for choosing their search provider. However, it doesn't mean that you're going to reach every single one of these, because it, again, does take into account your client's needs. If you're under a deadline or pressure to exchange, then speed may be more important to cost, and you may want to take into account an expedited fee. However, we try to strive to reach all of these. But when there was research against it about what the clients actually require, out of all the responses, 47% said fast responses to inquiries or complaints. Another 46 said simple purchasing process. 34, the ability to track orders in real time. 25% said clarity and simplicity of product information across channels. And 22% the ability to interact with the company over multiple channels. Now, this is something that InfoTrack does completely. We try to become as transparent as we can for our clients, and we will always endeavour to do our best. If you need a search to be marked as urgent, we will do that for you. We'll also see if we can also expedite it as well. We are very transparent and we do communicate over multiple channels. So yes, we have a help desk. Every law firm with us will have a dedicated account manager. Emails, phone calls, speak to the help desk, speak to the account manager, go over the iSupport on InfoTrack as well, which is our interactive chat, and we'll help you in any way that we can. Now comparing the council search to the regulated. As you can see, these are 3 different local authority searches by 3 different councils. Now, this is something that the law firm has to go through. They'll have to go through the whole search just to find out the information that they require. And every local authority will have it in a different format, as demonstrated here. So remember that the search provider selection will refer to a balance, including value for money, such as additional data provided by a provider. Now, what would happen is we will get these search results back and we will check them and send them through to you. However, we're not going to put it into a separate order for you. It's the order that is given to us by the local authority, which unfortunately does take more time off the law firm to go through it and make sure that it has all the information that they require. Now, compare that to a regulated local authority search, which is taken from one of our samples. Straight away, our regulated local authority search is in a fixed format. So you know exactly where it is, what page you need to refer to. On the very front page of it, you've got the summary. So we'll just go through and we'll say, this is all the information you'll be able to find within this local search. There are 4 planned applications that you may want to double check. Just going through. And then at the end, we've also got the information for buyers. So this is actually a couple of pages dedicated to your end client. So what it will do is go through and it will almost be seen as a jargon buster. So for example, what is a TPO? What is a local land charge? Hopefully by you referring your clients onto the information for buyers, it will reduce the amount of phone calls or emails that they put through to you for not understanding the local search. So again, it's just an added benefit that InfoTrack's trying to do to help you guys out. Now dealing with insurance this is a really good example, and it's always funny to check the small print. So this is actually an up-to-date example given by East Hants District Council in the small print of both the Con 29 and the Con 29O forms. It shows that the local authority does not accept legal responsibility for an incorrect reply except for negligence. However, negligence is really hard to prove. It's also good to point out that none of these T's and C's have been updated for a very long time. Now, as you can see, which given the quality is not exactly the best, as this is a zoomed in snippet of a live council search, on the 3rd line towards the end, it will also extend to any other person who has knowledge, personally or through an agent, of the replies before the time when he purchases the property. So again, they haven't updated their T's and C's in a long time. It still refers to when he buys a property rather than they. So now I'm just going to have a very quick demonstration of how you can order your local authority searches through InfoTrack. So this is the InfoTrack website, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. We'll just go through. So we click on conveyancer search and it comes up with different types of transactions that you might be dealing with. So I'm just going to go through residential standard, enter in my matter reference, and my property, or an example here. Then what will happen, it will then come up onto the InfoTrack map. From here, you can either have the InfoTrack plan or you can upload a copy of your own by clicking upload here. I'm happy with that, so I'll just click next. And then we come on to product selection. So if you've got any packs, then the local authority search will come in the pack and it'll be the first thing that you appear up at the top. But as we click on the drop down here, you've got your local authority search. So in this instance, it's Waverley. You can see that we're showing a 5 working day turnaround time. Again, we've also given you the last 8 local authority searches that we've sent out. And then we've got a council search underneath, which again, 9 working days. Yet the council search has also stuck within this turnaround time. But notice the price difference as well. So with a regulated local authority search, and this is just at a fixed cost of £122.40. This is a fixed price nationwide. So it doesn't matter what local authority you go to out the 375, you'll be paying the exact same price for a regulated local authority search compared to the council, which can fluctuate anything between £70 typically for up north, or if you're dealing with somewhere like Croydon or Barnet, you're looking at about over £300. Again, Waverley, £307.40. When all the exact same information can be found within the regulated local authority search, as the information contained is a mirror image of each other. So in this instance, yes, your client's going to end up paying for these searches anyway, but just by choosing a regulated search, you're saving your client £200 for when they receive the best information. And on top of that, it also offers better protection as well for the end client. So I've selected the regulated local authority search. With a local authority, both council and regulated, you can have free roads to be included within the turnaround time. Free road to be included within the search results, sorry. So you can do that by just clicking on the road adoption here, or if you click on the official, it will appear underneath there as well. So I'm just going to click next, which will now take me to a summary screen. Just to confirm my order, my regulated local authority search, 5 working days, it's given you the estimated delivery date, and then you'll just click order. Again, you'll receive a confirmation of the local authority of this order as well, which will contain your local authority search with the turnaround time and the estimated delivery date. And then just for our clients as well, if you go to waiting for searches, it will come up with all the searches which are currently outstanding, and you can filter this through by your regulated search here, which will have the estimated delivery date, and it will just keep you updated along the way. So that's how easy it is to order a regulated local authority search through InfoTrack. And then just one more slide. So this is actually the comparison between the council and a regulated search. So the data that can be found within both searches are identical. They will mirror each other. They're both up to date from the changes made in 2016. The layout, again, it does vary per local authority for the council search, but with the regulated, it is a fixed format. Summaries, again, we have that summary for the conveyancers and the home buyers. So you know exactly what you find within the local search, and also your client can go through it and just figure out all the jargon. The price, again, I touched on this in the previous slide. It does vary per local authority, so you can pay anything between £70 to over £300 for the exact same information compared to the regulated, which is fixed. It'll be a fixed price nationwide. And then the insurance does vary for the council, but the STL regulated local authority search is backed by a 10 million PI, which again offers more protection for the end client. So that's the end of our presentation. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with your account manager or a help desk. The details are at the bottom. Yeah, thanks for your time, and I'll speak to you guys soon.